Hey guys, Art13131 here, and we are still in week 8. Week 8, we have 2 weeks left of assignments. Next week, we're going to be working with pen and ink, so it's not like dipping a pen in ink type of drawing, but you can do that if you want. But basically, what that means is using a Sharpie sort of pen. They have better ones out there than Sharpie. Um, eh, if you just look up, if you're going to order offline or something, look up drawing pens and ink pens, and there'll be better ones than Sharpies, but Sharpies can work as long as it's a medium mark, not a real thin mark or a real thick mark, like the felt tip Sharpies are going to be a little too big of a mark. Uh, the other kind has sort of like what looks like a ballpoint, but it's not a ballpoint, but a very thinner tip than a felt pen. Unless you can find a really thin, small mark felt pen, usually they're a little thicker than is what's going to be appropriate for this assignment next week. And it'll be ink techniques, which I'll talk about, and ink drawing, but you're going to need that ink pen, one or two. Depends on how much ink you're going to use. You might want to get two. They're not very expensive. I think I got mine for $2 at an art store, and it's a better one than Sharpie. So try them out if you can at an art store, or they do sell various sort of ink pens, not ballpoint, because ballpoint won't allow you to stipple, which is the pressing down and getting a fine dot, a series of dots rather than ballpoint. You actually have to roll it over the paper to get a mark. Typically, it's not going to work as well. So that's what you really want. And we're looking at black, of course, black ink. All right, so that's next week. So heads up on that. You're going to need to get a pen. All right, so let's talk about number 15, which is a animal drawing. So that should be fun for many of you. And the homework is drawing something ugly or ordinary that you would never draw. Something that you wouldn't want to draw necessarily because you don't like it. It's ugly or ordinary. But it's kind of a discipline to draw something that you're not necessarily interested in, but you do a really good job of it. So that's a discipline. It's sort of forcing yourself to do something that you might not do otherwise, and and they can be fun. So ugly drawings. What is ugly to you? Then draw that and use all the shading that we've talked about, proportions, shading, all the necessary elements and principles we've talked about through all of these. Okay, so getting back to the animal drawings, there's several ways to do it. These are, I know, really good drawings. This is probably more basic than some of these other ones, but it gives you an idea of what an animal drawing means. It can be a sort of like a bust of the head and chest, kind of, or maybe just the face, like this dog, neck, face. Or you can go for the whole animal. That's okay too. And you can put them in positions or whatnot. I'll try to provide a video on some kind of animal drawing that you can maybe get an idea from. But typically, it's the same thing we've been working on: shading with your light source. So whatever the light source is on your animal, you want to incorporate that. Darks and lights to make a shape. And then it's going to be proportions and placement. Where the eyes are, where the nose is, where the ears are. Now, this is a little more lenient than the portraits, which, working with a certain kind of human head as opposed to animals can be a little more, variation to it. I'll leave that up to you, but look at Bing Images here, or you can go to Google Images, which I found wasn't as good as far as variety goes. I like this one a lot. 40 realistic pictures of cats. Cats and more cats. Cats rule and dogs drool. Nah, I got plenty of both. My dogs aren't real droolers. Unless they're hanging their head out the window, then they drool on the window when we're traveling somewhere. I like this wolf one right here, really nice. Usually when you pick one of these, if you go to Bing on your own, it'll show a bunch of other examples of the same sort of drawings. And these are drawings, apparently, so they look really, really good, I know. I'm not expecting that kind of skill level necessarily. This is a beginning class. Put the elements in we've been talking about. Proportion, placement, realism, not cartoon, and also all that shading and texture. So, these little lines that make up the squirrel's tail are talking about a very furry tail. And so when you're looking at it, you get that. It's a furry, soft texture as opposed to scratchy or void of any fur. So that's where those lines come in when you're doing fur. You can even make it something like this, which is now moving into a little more abstract, or maybe even surrealism. I'll allow that. Go ahead. Let's branch out. You want to put a little color to it? That's okay too. All right. Just to try it out. So here's plenty, and then you can actually look at more. There's tons to get ideas. Okay. You want to take a picture of your own animal, pet, and draw that. That's fine too. Or you can work from one of these. I'd rather you work from an image rather than imagination, unless you're really good at drawing already. Then you possibly are going to be able to do that, pull that off. But I think as many of you saw when you did the shoe from memory and shoe from life, the shoe from life came out better as if you're a beginner, because you're actually looking at something that you're drawing rather than in your imagination. It's a little harder if you're not practiced to get all the details and the proportions correct. So I'd rather you work from one of these images, or take an image of your own, or find an image of your own and work from that. But I stress all the shading. Don't make it bland and flat. I mean, this rabbit has plenty of dark and light areas. Same with most of these. Don't do something like this, because that's kind of like an anime fox or something. It's not realistic. Okay, I want something more real. If you take something more real like this fox and put it in a shirt, that's different than the anime face or the cartoon face. You're putting it in a shirt, okay, but most of the animal is realistic. That's what I'm after. This is a really hard one to do, but Basically, I think what they did is put a lot of tone, and then started erasing out tone with a thin eraser. You can buy erasers that are like a pencil, and you can sharpen them slightly, and you can get in here and like put a bunch of graphite in here and then start erasing it out where you want that fur to shine up like that. That's how you do it. And then leaving the darker ones and adding to the darker ones in here. And then of course it has a background is a little darker than a lot of these lighter areas, so they really stand out because there's separation between that tone and that tone. Okay, I think we've got enough ideas here. I'll provide some videos. I hope I can find something relevant to what we're doing here and not too extensive in the animal drawing field, because this is a beginning class. But work from something real, a real photograph of an animal or one of these. All right, now the homework, like I said, was to draw something you wouldn't draw normally. I mean, some people have drawn various things, like other than an ugly person, you can draw something ugly like that if you want. Ugly cat with scraggly old hair and all this stuff. There's a few on there. I mean, Google it or Bing it. Go to Bing and look in ugly animal drawings. In fact, I'll do that for you now and see what happens. Or not animal. Well, if you want to choose an animal, let's try that. Just for fun. Yeah, there's that cat. Oh, and the dogs. Some students have gone here and drawn that, or this one. This is more cartoon, though, but this one's kind of an open, we'll open it up to whatever. This assignment's whatever. But I want to be able to see, don't make it so whatever we don't understand what you're drawing. And then, just draw it as well as you can using all you've learned. The shading, the proportion, the placement, the unity, all these aspects. And then draw that. All right, so that's it for now. The final is coming up during the last week. That's to take one of your best work and mat and frame it. Matting is the cardboard or a paper border that goes over your drawing and under the glass of the frame. And they work together. Usually they come together when you buy them. Make sure the matting doesn't cover up essential parts of your drawing, so that you're not blocking out some critical areas of your drawing that should be shown. Sometimes you have to watch the size of whatever you're putting your drawing in, the mat and the frame. But that's it. And then you're going to take a really good, straight, clear photo of it, straight on, like not angled, but straight in the frame, like you're standing right in front of it while it's hanging on the wall. That's actually a really good way to do it, to take the pictures. Sometimes it's better to take the pictures without the glass on the frame because of glare too, but we'll talk about that. When you send your image, and if I can't see it and it's not that great of an image photographed because of the glare, then we'll talk about taking the glass out and then trying it again. But that's what the final is, and basically it's getting ready to, if we're face-to-face class, we would be hanging those in a gallery at the school or at the college or somewhere else for people to view, and that would be the final. You're getting ready for a professional exhibition of your work. All right, so that's what that is. We'll talk more about that when it closes in. Get a ink pen for ink techniques and ink drawing for next week, and we'll talk with you then.